Everyone likes the taste of a refreshing banana. It's a very common item to buy at your local grocery store, and a lot of the population enjoys it. But what if I told you that the banana had a much darker and more complex history than you may realize? The History of the Banana and Banana Republics by me, Daria Choksi. All sources mentioned have been provided by Embry Riddle and have been cross-checked. According to UMBC Center of History, background of the Guatemalan coup, bananas were introduced during the 1800s as part of the U.S. government and the United Fruit Company. The United Fruit Company was well antiquated with the Eisenhower administration and had many ties and connections with them, using which they created the film Why the Kremlin Hates Bananas, which worked wonderfully and began to introduce the fruit to the American public. This was during the Cold War era, so anything that the US could do to undermine the Russians, they did. They did this by investing in journalists and ran stories all over, which pleased the company, which over the course of its years resulted in the United Fruit Company owning 42% of all the land in Guatemala, which in turn gave rise to banana republics. What is a banana republic, you may ask? A banana republic is a system where the central government does not have the funds to generate an infrastructure and a wealthier company will provide it for them in return for large land payouts and hefty tax breaks, which results in a stratified social caste where there is a large landless population and a few wealthy elite who run an oligarchy. Banana republics started in the 1800s when Lorenzo Baker sold bananas he bought from Jamaica at a 1,000% markup in Boston, according to Marcella Busilli, 2008. This was the birth of a company called United Fruit Company, or as we now know it, Chiquita. The creator of the YouTube video Chiquita, The Controversial History by the company man states that these large fruit companies were able to provide everything from plantations, railways, telegraph lines, hospitals, ports and producing areas, etc. It's an amazing deal for these new countries. They get all of these free benefits, and all they have to do is provide tax breaks or become the sole producer of that crop. What they fail to realize is that what they end up actually doing is becoming dependent on that company for their infrastructure and their economy. The company man also states that the creation of banana republics led to some questionable treatment of their workers, but it's been hard to prove, so take that with a grain of salt. But something more tangible and darker did in fact happen with the company's history. Their workers in Colombia went on strike and demanded better treatment. The company then asked the US government to intervene, but the Colombian government did not like the US government intervening and chose to intervene themselves, which resulted in a more stricter treatment, which resulted in anywhere between 50 to 2,000 casualties of Colombian protesters, but those numbers are being debated, but that is what happened. The next thing is that this was not a one-time thing, however. As I mentioned earlier, the United Fruit Company had ties with the Eisenhower administration, and when the democratically elected leader in Guatemala, Jacobo Arbenz, chose to enact Decree 900, which saw the redistribution of unused land to the landless populace, they chose to get Eisenhower's help to remove what they called a communist from power, cited in UMBC Center of History background of the Guatemalan coup. This was accomplished by the newly formed CIA, which ran covert operations to dismantle his current term and replace him with a more pro-company ruler, which ended up with a totalitarian regime which lasted for a while until it was eventually replaced. It's important to know the history behind the things we enjoy. In this case, the delicious banana. It's one of oppression and exploitation. But as times have changed, so has the exploitation. It's nowhere near as bad as it was in the past. But even if the times have moved on, the history still remains. Thank you. I'm Daria Chuxley.